Every experienced driver must have found themselves in a situation where seeking an appropriate parking spot has taken quite some time. Certainly on those occasions, it would be easier for us to just park wherever we like, not caring whether other drivers will be able to properly park or use the street. While this may be an easy way out, it certainly isn't the right one, and we should all know it. Besides being illegal, this way of parking also says something about the driver and how little they care for other people behind the wheel. Today, we take a look at what happens when these insensitive rascals are served a well-deserved revenge for their actions and inappropriate parking. In this first example, we will see how enraged this can leave other people. Number 1. Car owner refuses to be blocked. It is a busy life, and we all have somewhere to be. It can certainly feel quite excruciating when an obstacle to our plans is someone's irresponsible parking that leaves us helpless. This driver must have been having quite a day since they decided that getting blocked would not keep them grounded for long, even at the expense of their own car. We can probably relate to this rage. But we condemn such drastic measures, even though they spell out revenge quite severely. Number 2. A reminder that you shouldn't take up 2 parking spaces. The person who parked wrongly in the previous video was put in their place quite roughly. This next video shows us a gentler way to teach someone the same lesson. Namely, a group of people noticed that one of their female friends had parked quite rudely, taking up 2 parking spaces. They decided to show her this isn't okay in a fun way by pulling a prank on her. What they used against her was the knowledge that her remote didn't work and that she could only unlock the car from the driver's side. Making use of this, one of her friends took the parking spot right next to hers, making her unable to reach the driver's door. He made sure to park properly and within the lines of the parking space he had taken. After setting this up, the women's friends position themselves nearly to observe as their plan unfolds. Her frustration grows as she tries to open the other doors or the trunk. After giving up, we see her walk away and realize that she is being pranked. We are reminded that parking selfishly and thoughtlessly isn't the way to go. Number 3. SUV blocks a wrongly parked car. The previous example shows us that even our friends can get into a habit of parking insensitively toward all other drivers. It also gives us an idea of how we could gently nudge them toward the right path. In the video that follows, we will see another approach, one that may be more appropriate for those who don't want to learn. A car owner who has parked illegally has probably done so without a second thought. Then again, here come 2 giant vehicles that will serve him a spoonful of revenge that he won't be able to forget soon. After ensuring they aren't blocking anyone but the insolent driver, they park just close enough to his car to make it impossible for him to enter the vehicle. Once the driver returns, he realizes that his careless behavior has been punished. After raving briefly, he realizes he is left with only one option: entering through the trunk. Number 4. A smelly revenge. As a figure of speech, we could say that parking in a way that obstructs others and shows that you don't even care is a garbage move. In this video, we will see that some people have taken this idea quite seriously and decided to take revenge symbolically. These guys decided to use a towing truck to punish the insolent driver. They decided to leave the car in a place that sends out a strong message. After picking it up, they moved the car and placed it directly into a gigantic garbage container. We can imagine how challenging it will be to pull this car out. This smelly revenge will certainly make the irresponsible driver reconsider their parking habits. Number 5. Concrete revenge. In this hilarious case of revenge, this man decided he had had enough. Since this red car was left in a no parking zone, He came up with quite a spectacular solution. Considering that the owner of the car couldn't be found, and that means were available, the revenge was quite concrete. With the help of his friends, the man broke the side window of the car, making an opening for a product of his revenge to enter. After getting the truck close, they filled the car full of cement. We can imagine the surprise that the car owner must have felt once they returned. This must have been quite a lesson for them and a reminder to park more conscientiously. Number 6. Don't park in front of a fire hydrant. Another simple thing that we should all be aware of when choosing our parking space is to avoid parking in front of a fire hydrant. Even though it should be self-explanatory, these are used in emergencies, and if you block them, you will make the work of those trying to help harder. Some, however, don't seem to have gotten the memo and still choose to leave their car in such a way. Well, this is what can happen if you are one of those. Not only will you get a ticket for this violation, but you may even lose a window or two in the process. Besides that, you certainly can't expect anyone to take responsibility if there is leakage and your seats get soaked. If this happens, you can write it off as the punishment the universe had for you since you parked like a charlatan. Number 7. Stealing a parking spot goes wrong. Revenge can take quite some effort, but luckily there is this thing we call karma, which occasionally levels the field without us having to lift a finger. In this case, it didn't even take much for it to show. As a man was backing into a parking space, this reckless driver rushed in to steal it, but ended up crashing into a wall behind it. Number 8. Jeep tows a car out of its parking spot. This next video will show us that it isn't only karma that can teach a lesson to those who try to steal parking spots. The guy in the yellow Jeep noticed someone was leaving and sat there patiently waiting for the parking spot to get free. As this person was backing away from the parking space, a driver in the red car used this opportunity and stole the parking spot right in front of the guy's nose. The driver left the car, not caring about how unjust this move was. He may even have had an excuse in his mind like, "It's a dog-eat-dog world," but he soon finds out this was a bad idea. An oversight that he made was that the yellow Jeep was equipped with a hook, and the guy in the driver's seat was quite motivated to use it. He drives up to the car that stole his parking spot, hooks it, and pulls it away. After unhooking it, he completes his revenge by reclaiming the stolen parking spot. Number 9. DIY towing of an illegally parked car. Indeed, having a Jeep with a hook available can help you handle rude drivers who take your parking space. In this next example, we will see that there are do-it-yourself things you can pull off as well. This incredibly insensible driver has taken up a disabled parking space, and this woman isn't having it. Once she realizes the situation, she comes up with a quick solution. She goes to her house and grabs a cushion. If you are wondering what it is for, it will be revealed in a second. The driver of the black car moved very close to the front of the illegally parked one. Once it was positioned right, the woman held the cushion between them as the driver moved the car slowly to pinch the cushion between them. Once this was done, and any scratching damage was prevented, they pushed the illegally parked car out of its unrightfully claimed parking spot. The parking spot was reclaimed after the wrongly parked car was pushed out. Number 10. Forklift removes wrongly parked cars. When it comes to those who park irresponsibly, we are sometimes left with no options but to take things into our own hands. In this next example, we will see how much effort is sometimes needed to keep an entrance to your store accessible. Since the entrance to this shop was blocked by multiple vehicles, this guy decided that something must be done. It is definitely convenient to be a forklift operator in this situation. To quickly resolve the situation, the man jumps into his forklift and starts playing one of the biggest Tetris games we have seen. Supported by other co-workers, he moves the wrongly parked cars away, leaving them without a scratch. The man removed the cars that had blocked the entrance one by one and relocated them to the nearby parking spots. Number 11. Tank crushes an illegally parked car. When it comes to punishing those who have illegally parked their cars, we cannot in good conscience overlook Arturas Zuokas and his approach. This man used to be the mayor of Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania, and his idea of how to solve the problem of illegally parked cars was quite delightful. Instead of short-term solutions such as parking tickets, he wanted to crush this bad habit entirely. In 2011, Zukas decided to raise awareness about this issue by pulling a stunt involving a BTR-60 tank running over an illegally parked vehicle. Let's also mention that this whole event was broadcast. This means that the citizens had the opportunity to watch on TV how the mayor drove a tank and crushed a wrongly parked car in the street with it. Number 12. Hosed down. We have seen many ways in which people have disrespected others and showed that they don't care if their parking habits disturb everyone else. This next video shows us that some are prepared to go even to greater lengths with their impudence. Imagine that you have made sure that your house has a parking space. Naturally, you would do so to save yourself a lot of time. You would waste searching for other available parking solutions, especially if you drive a lot. Then, one day, which seems like any other, someone decides to use your parking space without regard for it being private parking, and obviously in front of someone's house. Once this woman parked, she went on her merry way, and we even saw her grab something from the trunk. Since the parking spot owner noticed what was going on, he exacted his revenge by spraying her and her car with a water hose. What an unpleasant ride it must have been for the woman from there on out. Number 13. A clear no parking sign. We now know that securing parking spaces, even those right in front of our house, can be pretty challenging. Instead of hosing down anyone who gets near the private parking space, some have resorted to another type of defense. In this next video, we see that someone has left not just a sign that clearly outlines the parking space as a private one, but also a more or less subtle threat. On a wall right next to the garage, we see a wheel clamp hanging and announcing to the world that leaving your car there may result in a longer stay than they are planning. Number 14. Man moves a car with his bare hands. Previously, we have seen threats and signs used by some as a measure that should prevent their vehicle from getting boxed in. However, we can only rely on this on some occasions. Let us see what this man does once he is blocked by a car, even though he parked adequately. As he returns to his parking space, the man notices there is a car blocking him, but he hopes that since he drives a motorcycle, he will be able to squeeze through. Firstly, he tries to leave by backing out of this tight spot. Since that didn't work, he got up to see how much space there was on either side of the car. He even compares the gap size to the size of his trunk. He then gives it another shot, this time trying to go front first, but this also doesn't work. Once he concludes that it isn't possible to slip through, he is left with nothing else but to rely on his strength and push through. Now, we may think that he would choose the option of lifting the obviously less heavy vehicle that he is driving, but this guy had another idea in mind. As we are left wondering what sort of exercise regime got this guy such strength, he grabs the car and moves it out of his way before he leaves. Number 15. Get blocked in. This group of people decided to teach a lesson to someone who clearly doesn't care if they block someone with their car. Construction workers came to their jobs and found that someone was brave enough to ignore all the signs and park right there. They pulled huge concrete blocks and got the car stuck right where they found it. As the lesson was sinking in, the construction workers calmly proceeded with their work, enjoying the righteousness of the revenge they pulled off. Number 16. Man blocks illegally parked car with garbage cans. In the previous example, we saw that one way to achieve revenge is to turn the tables on those who have blocked others by parking irresponsibly. But what do you do when neither concrete blocks nor manpower are available? This wise cleaner has found that around 40 trash cans can do the trick. After noticing this illegally parked car, he patiently aligned the trash cans around it. Finding their car trapped in such a way can certainly inspire some consideration for how we park. Number 17. Instant karma. In this other example, instant karma is teaching a rude driver a lesson about parking. We see the man walking towards the store after he has clearly parked in a way that takes up more space than necessary. "You don't get away with this," said Karma, as the man slips and smashes his face on the store's glass door. Since his fall has caused quite a commotion, we see a man come out of the store to help him out, making sure he isn't hurt. We assume that besides paying for this lesson with a fall, he will also have to accommodate the store for the damages. Number 18. Revenge for a blocked driveway. Home just to find a blocked driveway can certainly trigger a lot of rage. This guy comes home to just that, but decides to stay calculated even while he pulls off this revenge. He first examines the scene and makes sure that he cannot get to his house. It seems he even considered driving over the sidewalk, but it turns out to also be impossible. Realizing that this rude driver has blocked his entrance entirely, he devises a plan that will turn out to be even greater revenge than he intended. He first grabbed towing cables. After attaching them to the back of the wrongly parked car, he used his own car to pull it. Since the one who blocked the driveway has shown that they don't care where their car is left, this homeowner decides to respect their decision. He pulls the car away and leaves it right in the middle of the street. After doing so, he parks in front of his house and goes about his day. However, a car parked in the middle of the street must be addressed, and police show up. The lights and the commotion must have reminded the one who parked wrongly of what he had done. We see him show up just to move the car across the street. Number 19. A toast for a well-executed revenge. We have already seen examples of ironic revenge, where those who block others get blocked themselves. This guy takes this idea and makes it his own by deciding to carry out a chair and sit in front of an improperly parked car. He doesn't even treat this as a chore, but as an opportunity to relax and enjoy some alone time. He is reading a book and living his best life, all while teaching a rude driver a pretty valuable lesson. At one point, we see him even having a drink and toasting, either to the ones being taught the lesson or to his own wit, and an act of successful revenge. Number 20. Man cuts through an illegally parked car. Sometimes we have to rely on the tools available to make the best out of the situation. In this video, the situation involved a parked car that took up more space than it should have, and the means included a disc grinder. This man wanted to park, but realized that he couldn't, since someone was rude enough to take multiple parking spaces. This inconsiderate person should have taken a moment to make sure they aligned their car with the parking space they had taken. To make this revenge symbolic and frankly hilarious, the man decided not just to do random damage to the car, but to cut off just the right part. This part turned out to be the one hovering above the second parking space this rude driver had taken. After exacting revenge, the man calmly parks his car in the parking space that just opened up. Number 21. Guys flip over wrongly parked cars. In this next example, we see that insolent drivers can sometimes push us over the edge. These two wrongly parked cars had blocked the entire street, making everyone a hostage of their selfish decision. These three guys have clearly had enough of this and decided to make the revenge quite transparent. They join their strengths and flip over the car onto the lawn behind it. After it landed on the roof, they did so with the other one as well. Number 22. A punishment for taking a disabled parking space. We can certainly say that the revenge in all the videos shown was well deserved. This next video will show us how a prank may be a great way to get back at those who don't respect the parking rules. Among these rules, nearly 70 years ago, civilization realized that we should be aware of other people's struggles. As a sign of our compassion and understanding, specific parking spaces were designated as disabled parking spaces. Unfortunately, some drivers don't feel that they should pay their respects in such a way, and they use these parking spaces without regard for those who may need them. In this example, we see a very creative way in which this guy was punished for feeling he was above the rules. Number 24. The wrap-up. Why don't we wrap things up with this video showing how a man has decided to punish those who repeatedly park in front of his house? Imagine how a smile must have dropped off someone's face once they returned to where they parked their car and found it looking like a giant spider had had fun with it. This will teach us that parking in front of someone's house as a way to avoid paying parking fees at nearby parking lots isn't a good idea. We have been through quite an extensive list that shows us various ways in which justice can be served to those who take the choice of their parking space too lightly. It is hard to believe that all of these people would be missing common sense and think it okay to park as selfishly and inappropriately as we have seen them do. This leaves us with a clear conclusion that it isn't the lack of knowledge that stands behind such behavior. Instead, it could be rudeness and lack of respect or care for others. Today, we have seen many occasions when people who park irresponsibly are put in their place and reminded that they should think twice before parking inappropriately.